Hello, everybody. Recording live from somewhere.
Welcome to the Dental Efficiency Playbook. Here we go. Hey, party people. Welcome to the Dental Efficiency Playbook. My name is Gabe Hofmann, also known as the Dental Efficiency Guy, and I am excited to talk to you on this episode to bring you an absolutely glorious OG in our coaching space, over 3 decades of experience working with practices and teams. Melinda Heryford, so good to see you, my friend. So Melinda has Melinda Heryford Coaching, and they work with amazing offices helping them to scale. Today, we are going to be talking about something that plagues every practice at some point, and that is how to scale your practice 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times without risking burnout. It's a fear, right? How are we going to scale? How are we going to scale our team without either burning out our team or burning out the practice? So, Melinda, I would be interested in, the whirlwind, right? When there's misalignment in the practice, the daily whirlwind of practice operations, it always feels urgent, rushed, disorganized. And if you don't intentionally protect the time to work on the business, when you're working in the business will own you. And that time to improve systems, to roll out accountability, roles, that chaos will keep showing up with different faces.
Yeah.
And so what I would like, first, can you introduce or tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? And then can we move right into some of the common areas that you see as catalysts for, when you work with a team that is on a team or providers that are on the verge of burnout or feeling burnout? What are some catalysts, some common things that you see, trends and practices that have led to that? And then we can discuss some of the possible solutions, sustainable solutions to avoid it as well, to help them scale sustainably. So, Melinda, welcome, and please tell us a little bit about who you are. And I'm so excited to talk to you.
Me too, Gabe. I've really been looking forward to our discussion. And, I've worked with advanced trained dentists for years. And just like the title is, they've spent countless hours perfecting their skills and developing more skills. And so that's an awesome thing. But what they are plagued by is being able to execute those skills in the practice and day to day. And so it's a big trauma point, actually, for these advanced trained dentists when they've invested so greatly. And then when they come back, it really is like, oh, we don't want to do, it's another new thing. So, what leads to that effect? Why do teams come, say, oh gosh, we can't do another thing. We can't take another process. And so it's
a big question, right? It happens all the time.
All the time.
We go to a conference or we watch a webinar, right? And then it's, how are we going to implement this? How are we going to implement this? And what is our plan to implement it? Or do we have one?
And frankly, there's so many great things. There's so many great things to implement that even that is overwhelming. So, when we step back and kind of look behind the curtain for those dentists that really want their practice to be better, and I think that's most dentists, they really are stepping into what Steve Covey commonly coined as the whirlwind, which is really that day-to-day momentum of the urgent. And in dentistry, we are plagued by the urgent. Our schedule alone, we step into the day, and unless we do a huddle, that's not going to happen. It really is like we step into the day and all these things happen. 3 people call out sick and patients are canceling left and right. And what was a beautiful schedule now comes apart, and people are frantically moving to get the schedule full again. Not ideally, because you can't do that last minute. And then, and then covering for each other because people are out. So, this is the day-to-day whirlwind in dentistry. Literally, Gabe, that could occupy our providers constantly. And unless you have a system and leaders and a process that is stated and trained and onboarded, and there's accountability around it, that whirlwind is going to come get you. And if even when you're like making headway, a day happens and then you lose all that headway. And so this is just what it is to be a human, but also to be in dentistry, which is the whirlwind beats on. It just beats on and on and on. And it's easy to lose sight of a forward focus. And so, knowing that and working with teams, that's been the thing that has boggled my mind for years, which is how do we compensate for this crazy whirlwind? Because that's going to happen. So I could have a coaching session and a doctor could be super motivated, but when they step back into the whirlwind, if there's no structure, Gabe, to hold them, they're going to get lost in the whirlwind again. They're just going to come back to it.
And that's so good. And I want to go back to a couple things you said. So within that chaos, that whirlwind, right? Are we putting a plan and training in place so that when those call outs happen? I just talked to a doctor last week that happened. 2 people, one on vacation ended up having to stay out longer because of a missed flight, some weather. The other one, one was scheduled time off. The other had to take time off due to a family emergency. So they were down to assistance.
Yep.
What do you do? Do you have a plan in place? How do you handle that? Are we calling in a temp? Are we having someone step to the back who was previously a DA, now working up front? What are we doing in this situation? But where does that come from? It comes from the leadership in the practice as well as the revolutions. Have we trained on this? Do we know how to handle adversity? And what do we do with that in that situation? Do we come together as a team or do we all panic? Right. And so I think both those are really, that is training. That is an implementation. That is something that it's not a one and done. It's right. We're always adding new team members. Do they know what we do in each of those situations? When the schedule falls apart, what are our responses? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How do we handle this? What is our communication as a team? How do we handle it? How many days are we looking ahead? Are we focusing on today? You mentioned morning huddle, so I don't want to overlook that. That's the second thing that I think is very important, because what happens when the schedule falls apart or it's chaotic? Do we get away from the things that got us to success or got us to streamline communication and results? Yeah. Morning huddle sets that tone for the day. But do we skip that meeting or abbreviate, shorten that meeting because now we are short-staffed and we are getting away from the thing that can bring our team together, set the tone for the day despite that adversity?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Some of that is human nature, right? Because we panic, but how can we avoid that from happening? Because we see it I see it in practices all the time. I'm sure you do too. Yeah. But do we get away and stop doing the things that get us to a level of success? And then we wonder why we start to slide. That is in all businesses,
right?
Because
it's
complacency
nature.
Or comfort takes effect. And do we have the checks and balances? Do we have the training in place? Do we have the roles and responsibilities to where we are sitting down. Is that weekly? Is that monthly? Definitely no less than monthly. And looking into those things. We have the daily, we have the weekly, we have the monthly checks. But huddle represents that opportunity to reset every day, to look at yesterday, to look at today, to get the team on board, right? Refocused away from what's happening in their lives
For sure.
and into how are we gonna be a well-oiled machine today? What are the things that we can control, that we can do right now to make an impact?
Well, this is the thing that you're talking about, Gabe, is what is it that allows us to move from reactive to proactive?
Absolutely.
And really, if we kind of step back away from the practice, because what you're talking about, what you're pointing to too, what we're both pointing to are systems that help be proactive. Huddle is a proactive way to actually respond to the day if it's designed well. And so what we're both talking about here is structure. Like, what is the structure in order to be proactive? And I think if you queried any dentist that's been in practice for 10 years or so, I think they would know, okay, predominantly, how do you schedule? Predominantly, why do you do a huddle? Predominantly, why do you have roles and responsibilities, and what are they? I think they would know the answers to those. But my question really always was, like, how do we create a system around this? So everybody can kind of know the right way to do it, but that isn't going to get us into a place where we can be proactive on a consistent basis. Right?
No, you're right. You're right. And so what?
Yeah,
let me prompt this, because obviously I know where you're going. The structure is rooted in accountability, and accountability is alignment, right? Team alignment. They go hand in hand with leadership. And do we have leaders? Like, what is our leadership mastery? I want to talk a little bit about that. Are we developing leaders at all levels of the organization in each department? And how often do we invest that time to work on our team or on the business to develop the leaders inside the business?
Yes.
Because we go, providers go, the practice goes as the team, as the leaders on that team go. And in chaotic situations, is it all on your plate, or do we have leaders that step up? And so talk a little bit about that. Leadership mastery, leadership development throughout a practice of any size.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're talking about it, because I think this really, it can be relevant to any practice at any level, because leadership is just that. Like, how do you dive into that leadership piece to even develop our leaders further? I wanna just point out, I had a conversation with a dentist and his lead this morning. He's had the practice for 3 years. He's advanced trained, so he's not just straight out of the school. He did a bunch of implant training, comprehensive care training, all on 4 training. So he's had some,
Awesome.
He's been an associate for a while. And so, but he opened his own practice, and he is really suffering under, he's responsible for everything. And he is loving and caring and kind, and struggling to actually lay down what are our priorities. And so, whether it's there or really we have a doctor that's been practicing 20 years. It's the question is, how do you value leadership? Do you value leadership? And do you value the idea of that not everything rests on your shoulders? We talked a little bit about burnout, and really I think this is what causes burnout. This doctor that communicated this morning, you could see his shoulders he's a great guy. His shoulders, he's kind of stooped forward, his voice is different. He's struggling, he's suffering. And I have a practitioner that's been in 20 years, and he's suffering. So what is it? I have a female that's suffering at a different level. It's like these pieces. So I love that you talk about leadership, because leadership is freedom, but you actually have to it isn't magic,
No, not at all.
It's
Not at
magic.
all.
It really is. We're doing a leadership series this year, Gabe, for our clients, and today we're talking about unleash, uncover, and uplift. And so it really is everybody in your practice has some unique abilities. What are they? Because we have all these leadership responsibilities. What are they? And if I am smart, I can figure out how to put people to work in their unique brilliance, because dentistry
Absolutely.
is it's very siloed. We have dental assistants, we have hygienists, we have the front office. It's very siloed, and it could
Love
feel
that.
like not very upwardly mobile. But when we think about this unleash, uncover, uplift, and all these things that don't get done on a regular basis, then we kind of can marry those things, and we can always be developing leaders, always. And so it's like, okay, we have the OSHA, who's really detailed, who would just love that stuff because they're detailed and they just won't let things, they cross every T and dot every I. Or who's the best personality we have, who could be our greeter, and that would be what they would love. So there are all these opportunities for things that need to be done or will serve our patients if we figure that piece out. So when I think about roles and responsibilities, Gabe, behind it, I'm also thinking about who are the people and what is their unique ability and how can we have them help with some of this stuff, which will up-level them and get, and like align us to move forward. Because really the doctor and even the office manager holding everything on their own is a recipe for burnout. It's just,
Absolutely.
it's not gonna, and it's, it leads also to turnover, because it's like, okay, well, I'm not feeling like they don't really see me. So if they don't really see me, then I'm going to go somewhere else where I can be really seen. And this generation, this predominant generation, belonging is really important. Belonging is really important. So I really think about leadership in all these ways, right? Like, how do we tap into that belonging? How do we tap into their unique brilliance? And then how do we each actually have a way to develop leaders? Because I think that's, no matter how big or small, this team I'm talking to you about, that I talked to this morning, they're little. It doesn't matter. He's still weighted
you're right.
by the day-to-day, really weighted down. And, there's a million things to think about. So, that's part of what being clear about is. It's like, it's not just about patient care, but do we have one thing that as a team we align behind, right? We're headed towards. We have something that we all know what we're headed towards, and we know our individual contribution that makes that better. Because that pulls us out of that day-to-day whirlwind, and it puts us into purpose,
I love that. I love that. And actually just taking that a step further, two things that I will comment on. You talked about briefly on people in their unique brilliance. One trait that I absolutely love is, can we incentivize or motivate our teams to recognize that in others and celebrate those wins in huddle? Start with it.
Beautiful.
Not what I did and what my experience was, but I saw that Janie had this situation. She was miraculous with this patient, saved the day. The patient was so happy. I mean, whatever that situation is, celebrate that. Because when we celebrate on the little wins, we start compiling those wins. It's so easy to focus on all the big problems in the practice. But think about when we're developing another person, we're looking at our team members. It's so much easier to take what they are great at and double down or triple down on that. And then we are focusing on what they are great. Again, really striving in like supporting their unique brilliance, adding fuel to it, and then adding on little pieces of accountability and structure for their role that allow them to win more green lights every day.
Yeah.
right?
Beautiful.
More
Well,
wins
and
every day.
what you're doing with that, Gabe, is you're also creating a culture that is sustainable and loving and value added, which is like something people can have pride in. So, as dentists, and we are very persnickety, right? We're like, did this wrong, did that wrong. I mean, even the science on how we do what we do, it's very precise, right? So the tendency to pick things apart, and just how we are as humans, like what's wrong, not what's right. So I love what you're saying, which is build a culture of celebration. And I would add, when you have that culture of celebration and you're headed in a direction that you've all declared is the direction you're headed in, boy, then you have something powerful, don't you?
So much so. Again, as I said before, and based on what we started this with, alignment
Yeah.
is leadership. Leadership is implementing accountability. Accountability and alignment go hand in hand, right? When people know what they have to do to
Yeah,
be successful, all of our team members want to be successful,
they do.
but do they know how? And then are we inspecting? Are we checking that and celebrating that? I like to coach the doctors that I work with. Before we jump into what didn't go well, can we find one, two, or three things
It's
that
beautiful, Gabe.
that we are grateful for, that
It's
they are
beautiful.
doing well?
It's beautiful.
And it's the same mindset. It's a gratitude mindset before we are being constructive, or let's celebrate what is going well and continue to motivate. So we are now motivating, creating it, and they're accountable to what we're implementing, but we're continuing to develop that person instead of breaking them down. It's so
Yeah,
easy for us to always break someone down.
yeah,
None of us are. So I love this because when we also, like, we start with, when we're working on people's unique brilliance, we can add on responsibility. And when we are continuing to support what they are great at, they keep doing that. Then we
yeah,
add on one thing at a time to continue developing them in their roles and responsibility, and sometimes action plans or performance plans. But the follow up, the sitting side by side and walking through that report or walking through those results and being face to face with them on a daily basis, heart to heart with them, not a smack on the wrist. We can be firm but have a velvet glove on, and come from the place of empathy, because do we really want to be short another person that has been with us for 3, 5, 10 years?
yeah,
Because what happens when all we're doing is pointing out we have a culture of identifying faults or the things that aren't going wrong and focusing on the things that are going wrong. Don't get me wrong, I know we have to identify those things. But as I said to one of my clients the other day, is it a problem or is it an opportunity?
beautiful, Gabe.
Right?
That's
Because
awesome.
we all have struggles, but are we looking at that as a problem in our practice? And is that how we're communicating that to our team? Or are we looking at that challenge as an opportunity that we're all going to come together, we're going to get their input, and we're going to identify the solution, the way forward with it? And you said that earlier, and I think that's really important to come back to, because it's the same concept of creating leaders at all aspects and being a heart-centered. I don't love the "we are a family" whenever I talk to a practice. Sure. Are we? Does that mean that that anything goes, or
Yeah,
we have roles and responsibilities and accountability in place? But I think some things that you said, accountability doesn't have to be a smack on the wrist. Accountability is communication and alignment,
yeah. It's, I
and
mean,
that
you're
is how
talking.
we hold people
I,
accountable.
I love that you're saying an accountability culture that's also a love culture. I love that piece of it, because what is loving is actually having clarity moving forward.
Absolutely.
Be not it's not all sunshine and roses, which is like everything's great and you're great and everything's great. It's like everything's great and we're all, here's how we're doing and here's what we're moving towards next and here's what you've done really well. So, I love that it's like it's both. It's both and, right? There's a direction and a movement forward, and there's also this, like, we can be loving, maybe not like a dysfunctional family where we don't talk to each other about the things that don't work, right? Because that also happens, right? So there's like this avoidance. I think we tend to, in dentistry, avoid the difficult conversations more than have the difficult conversations. So you were referencing the one-on-one conversation, that one-on-one, that's part of the meeting structure that we really believe in, those one-on-one should happen monthly, small, little, they're not like a review. They're like, how's it going? How are you doing? Any challenges? Hey, you did this really, really well. Good job, right? It's just this really moment to go, you matter, and I see you. And
Yes, and then that thing that is a challenge, let them tell you, let that team member tell you what went on with it. You understand where they're coming from, what they understand or what they don't understand, and then you understand the gap in learning, right? And I think that again, that's what I mean by creating empowered accountability. But one thing that you mentioned, transparency.
Yeah.
Do we share our results, our KPIs,
Right.
our expectations on a regular basis? Or are we, and that goes back to being proactive, or do we only do it when fit hits the shan? And I think that goes back to creating, again, if we're doing it every day, if we're talking about those things every day, no longer are they, that monster that is that conversation that we have to have that's big and scary, because there's nothing in the practice that is off limits, right? We all understand the results that we are accountable to. We understand what drives the practice. We understand that one thing that convergently we're all working towards.
Yes.
I like to challenge departments within the practice to have their own goal together, right? Those teams. But do each of our team members know what they're good at and what their opportunity is?
Yeah, I love that.
I think too often, again, that goes back to taking the time to work on the business every month instead of just, do we do it quarterly? Do we do it semi-annually, or do we do it annually? Right? Because if we're just waiting for an annual review, or we do it every 6 months, are we really investing in our people? And again, so I love that, because you mentioned the dysfunction of a family. I was thinking about my kids as we were having that conversation, because when you're reactive with your kids, are you actually do you yell and scream? Do you get frustrated? How are you under pressure, or when things are going bad? And then they go as you go.
Yeah.
The same thing happens in practice.
The same thing.
And so I think as we started this talking about the chaos, right?
Yes.
That whirlwind or that chaos is created by our reaction to adversity largely, and then the training and implementation to know how to respond together as a team underneath of that, or within that whirlwind.
What you're really talking about too is a identified structure for leading and managing the practice.
Of course,
and like declaring that, and what are our systems or processes or structures to manage and lead, so that we are proactive and our team knows what's expected, and they know that they can have predictable conversations with them, and they know we will support them, right? This is really just that this is beautiful structure to be proactive and to actually step out of the whirlwind. So it's placeable, it's doable, you've seen it, you've seen it placed. And it really does start like one system at a time, not 20, one thing that creates clarity for the team, that is predictable, that takes them out of the rut of the chaos and into into predictability. That's why you love Huddle, because it's a meeting where they're all together and they can get all aligned for the day on the patients, and they can have a plan together every day. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
if they did nothing else, that very conscious system will help them calm the chaos and create a movement forward that feels good to the team, feels like they're accomplishing.
And that's great. I love something that your team consistently does, and I've heard you talk about multiple times, Melinda. But when it comes to accountability, if it feels hard, it is because there is a lack of clarity,
Yeah, great.
and clarity is visibility,
Yeah,
right?
great.
The way that they know is it's in writing. We've trained on it. We've gone through it. And the things that we talk about, the things that we consistently focus on, become those things that we get better at. And so is it a one and done and then we file it, or we come back daily, weekly, monthly to those things, and we continue to inspect those things that we
I
expect.
love
And
that. Inspect what you expect, that piece of it. And some doctors feel like, oh gosh, that seems too much. But really, we all want routine. We all want to know what's expected. We really do. Even if I give some blowback to begin with, the truth is I do want to know what's expected. I do. And I want to know how I'm
absolutely.
doing. I want to know how I'm doing. And so, how do we lay that groundwork for people, and then how do we go back and touch in? And so you've talked about that even in the one-on-one the meeting, that you're really touching back in with people to say, okay, this is your accountability. How are you doing? What is challenging about that? What's really working? Here's what I'd like to acknowledge you for, and how can I help you move forward? It's simple. It's not crazy. It's just actually checking back in. And I love what you're saying, which is that there is a game plan. There is clarity and transparency about how we're doing on the game plan. There's regular feedback about it. And we're celebrating, the even minuscule movement towards that. And we're also keeping our communication lines really open so people can be accountable and they can know how they're doing. So
Absolutely.
I love that. I mean, that really is, said simply, what we're talking about. So it doesn't
Sure. And then, I mean, obviously it's easy to say it, but it can be just as easy to implement it if you start with, where am I feeling the most pain right now? Like when I look at my practice, when I'm in my practice, where am I feeling? Where does it feel tense? Where is it a big cost center? Where is there a lack of organization?
Yeah.
And start there.
I love
And
that.
but I also think what you said is, do we ask our team, or do we put it all on our shoulders?
Right.
And that goes back to understanding the mindset. Again, before we get stressed out, the stress is what leads to the burnout.
Yeah.
And that's where I think, how do we view the problems? How do we view our practice? How do we view opportunities? How do we view ourselves?
You're right.
Are we putting it all on our shoulders, or do we understand that I can spend 30 minutes or an hour with this team member, and I can delegate this to them, and then have them report in a team meeting or come back to me on Friday and present it to me? And now that is, they got this. They have this.
Beautiful.
And could my office manager or another team member? I love accountability partners.
Yeah.
If we
Beautiful.
need multiple team members, I mentioned the challenge for a department. Can people hold each other accountable? And then they can also sit down and be talking about how it's going as a department.
Love it.
To us, or in huddle, how it's
Love
going,
that.
right?
Love
And so these are things that just make delegation so much simpler but effective. And I think so I all these things that we're talking about, they're simple, they're not always easy,
Right.
but a lot of the difference is how we view how we view clarity and accountability.
Yeah, I love that, Gabe. Even if, because it can seem like a bunch of things, and because it's a bunch of things, I won't make a decision. So I love the idea of even just dumping it all out, writing all the things down, and then what your suggestion is, what's the worst? Pick which one has the most heat that you could get a little heat off of it. And so, it's true. It's accurate. The structure is simple, but it's not always easy to implement. So starting somewhere is a great first move.
And are we challenging our teams to get 50% or 100% better every day? Or are we, think about this, in a 30-day month or 22-day month, if we are 1% better every day and we increase our results by 22, 24, 25% each month, then in 4 months, we are 100% growth. That means 300% in a year.
I love the way you think, Gabe.
Right? A little bit at a time. Little changes lead to big results.
They do.
So you don't have to look at this monster of all the, yes, yeah,
I love that. I love that.
Take one thing, and what is the change we can make today?
I love that. It's encouraging a continuous improvement environment, right? That's what you're really encouraging. It's like encouraging the best to come out in people. And I think that is a skill. I think it's just a beautiful skill to look at, go, okay, how can we each get a little bit better every day? I love that even as a challenge, like, okay, let's do it. Let's do it.
Trust me, I am constantly, and it goes for anybody in business. At the end of the day, when we stop being intentional about evaluating, working on the business, we will go down the rabbit hole, and the business will own us, right? We'll start to, and that's just the nature of the beast. But I think, both of us are coaches of different types and different experience. At the same time, really accountability is rooted in team alignment and clarity. And I think if we can change our mindset again to not the problems that we see in the practice, but can we get our teams looking at those challenges as opportunities?
Beautiful.
And if I can, how can we come together to get this done? So it's not my job. We're not putting anything in. That's not my job. It's how are we going to do this together? And that's the culture that is sustainable. And that is how we build teams together. And I think so often, as you said, we silo those team members. Mm-hmm. But do we want to promote teamwork and motivation and them holding each other accountable, which also takes an aspects. It doesn't replace our need to communicate with them as leaders in the practice, as owners of the practice. But on a day-to-day basis, it might take some of those small things off our plate so that we don't have 100 questions coming to us. We only have 20. And then can we delegate 10 of those or 15 of those to people who want to grow? We know they're strong in those areas, and we focus on the top 5.
Yeah, beautiful.
Anyway, it's been an absolute pleasure. Melinda, I always like to ask my guests on the show, what is one thing, right? If you dig into your coaching toolbox or even in life, what is one thing that you would like to leave our listeners with that will ultimately potentially impact them or give them something to think about, to chew on after they listen to this episode?
Yeah, I'd love to leave them with the idea. There's a question. It's a question, Gabe. And my question is, what's your one thing? What's your one thing this year? What's your one thing this year? Not today, not for a month, but what's your one thing this year that you are going to double down on in a focus? And then how will you involve your team in that one thing and their support of that one thing? So that I leave them with a challenge.
Okay, I love that. Thank you so much, Melinda.
Pleasure.
I'm so glad that we were finally able to record this episode. And for those of you that are listening, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You can always reach out via the platform that you listen on, or you'll see the details below. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Dental Efficiency Playbook. Again, it's how to 3x your practice without burnout with the amazing Melinda Heryford. And Melinda, if people want to get a hold of you, what is the best way that they reach you?
So, Gabe, let's put it in the show notes. But Melinda
Okay.
Heryford at melindaheryford.com. And we do have a gift. Since you're the efficiency expert, we have a gift for your listeners. And it really is how to actually get paid. How do you get paid at the time of service 100%? So you have no AR. So the promise is no AR. So we'd love to give them that gift, and in support of efficiency and in support of making things easier.
Absolutely love that. Again, thank you, Melinda. And for all our listeners, we'll catch you on the next episode of the Dental Efficiency Playbook.
Hey, friends. Before you head out, I just want to say thank you. Seriously, there are a lot of places you can spend your time. And the fact that you're here with us, investing in getting better, building smarter systems, and elevating your practice, that matters to us. If today's episode brought you value, please do us a quick favor and like and subscribe, and share it with someone on your team who's ready to level up alongside you. That's how we keep raising the bar, that standard across dentistry, together. And if you're ready to take what you learned and actually implement it in your practice, head down to the show notes and connect with us through the link below. We'd love to help you streamline, grow, and create a practice that runs with greater efficiency and a whole lot more ease. Until then, keep focused on 1% better each day and enjoy the ride. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Dental Efficiency Playbook.